countdown. It works pretty well. So we'll see. It's always weird here in the first seconds of a live video and you're like, okay, we're live. Let's start talking. And there's 0 viewers because they have to see it first. So
Yes.
if you're here for the replay, thanks for watching. And we're going to be doing some live Q&A. We'll be talking specifically about WordPress today, website platform comparison, how easy it is to get started with modern WordPress. And we really want to answer some questions about WordPress. We've seen a lot in the group lately, and I feel like the momentum is just like, I'm really excited about where we are right now with WordPress. I've seen it coming for a long time, and it's always kind of weird when you're on the cutting edge or like when you're paying attention to what's happening in an industry. Like I follow a lot of the developers who are building WordPress, but also at the same time, I work with a lot of people who are using WordPress. I work with people who are using old versions of WordPress. And so, we're seeing all of these things from like all these different angles, and it's tough sometimes to figure out like, where is this going and where do we tell people to go? But right now things are just looking so good. And if you're using the right ecosystem, if you're using the right theme, the right setup for WordPress, it is just, I think it's better than it's ever been. It's so easy to use. It's a fun experience to work in and edit your site. And I'm excited when I log in and work on new content. I'm able to do so much, even with the default WordPress blocks, but then adding something like Cadence allows me to do pretty much anything that I want to do with my site. It's fast. It's hey, Marcel, how's it going? It's just a great modern solution. And again, I think it's in a better spot than it's ever been. Now, that being said, I want to say that right off the bat, WordPress is such a broad term, right? Because WordPress is talking about software. It is talking about an open source sort of framework. It's not really a platform. What's up? How's it going? If you are on Facebook, I'm going to actually drop the link in the live if I can. Let's see here.
I'm doing that right now.
Oh, you're doing it? You got the link?
Yeah.
Wait, there's a link if you want to allow permission so that we can see your name and your profile picture. Marcel already did it, it looks like. I can see hers coming through. So if you want to be able to talk to us without us having to flip back over to Facebook and miss you, then it is good to go ahead and approve that.
Awesome. I also just approved my name, so you can see that.
So I can see you too? Oh, you said, hey, everyone, didn't you?
Hey, Melissa, how's it going?
Oh, man. Melissa, we're going to talk about you in a little bit. We're going to look at some of the current design cloud options for Cadence, and you're definitely going to be one of the ones that I would love to highlight. So glad that you're here. And I was just talking about how I think WordPress now is the time to be using WordPress, and I really love what Cadence is doing. I'm really excited about what's coming with WordPress with full site editing. We won't get much into that today, but hey, Francie, how's it going? And you're welcome. Thanks for being here. And hello, Amanda. I'm glad that you're here. But anyway, I think that, where they're going with full site editing is really exciting. And so the future of WordPress is bright. They're keeping up with modern web and the way that things are going. And I'm really excited about that. And we are really big proponents of Cadence. Cadence is a theme, but it's also another software company, a third-party software company that builds products for WordPress. And that's one of the things that I was trying to mention a minute ago is that WordPress, the software itself, is not a platform that we can compare to something like Squarespace or Showit or Wix or Pixieset or anything like that, because it's open source and it's available for anyone to build their own thing on top of. And whenever third parties build something specifically for WordPress, they can take it over and build whatever they want. And so when you have something like Divi, when you have something like Elementor, when you have something like Profoto, these are all from brilliant software teams who have built they're great software. They're awesome builders. And especially those three that I just mentioned, they were doing things that WordPress is doing now before WordPress was doing them. They knew that the future was going to be block-based and that they needed to have some sort of visual builder, and they kind of started that development. But since they started before WordPress moved into this sort of blocks by default, now they are basically separate platforms. So I would consider Divi or Elementor or Profoto to be a separate platform. I would consider Flow themes to be a separate platform. I don't even consider those to be WordPress. When I think of WordPress right now, I think of if you're using the default WordPress block editor and you are building primarily based on that editor, if you're using a theme that embraces blocks and maybe you use some sort of block plugin like Cadence or Atomic Blocks, or that's actually really old at this point. Like
Yeah.
I need to check in to see what some of the newest
Does it still exist?
yeah, I think it does. But
Yeah.
there's other block plugins that can extend the block editor. And I think anything that's embracing this, if you've heard of Gutenberg, somebody asked about Gutenberg today in the group, that was the code name for the block editor when they were still phasing out the classic editor. And we don't really call it Gutenberg. I mean, most people who talk about WordPress in WordPress circles don't say Gutenberg anymore just because it was the code name whenever it was like a new builder. Now it's just the default WordPress builder. We just call it the block editor. So block editor and Gutenberg are the same thing. And now the block editor is coming to all of WordPress, including templates, including the footer and header and sidebar, and widgets are going away. And all of that is called full site editing. And again, we're not going to get too much into that. I don't want to confuse people. But anyway, let's kind of dig into questions. Let's see what people have. Dylan, do you have any thoughts after my little rant there about WordPress and how awesome it is? I know you've been doing some really
Totally.
cool stuff. I can't wait to talk about, but what are your
For sure.
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to extend that to just say that WordPress is finally realizing, I think, that the goals that I was like really hoping that they would achieve maybe a decade ago. Like it took some time, but using WordPress is finally the experience I'd always wanted, where the typical WordPress user can actually build content, make it look how they want. They don't need a developer. It's just really nice. I'm finally in a place where I can recommend WordPress to my friends when they're like, "Hey, I need to build a website for this like project," and I'm not like, "You should." I hate Squarespace, but you should use it. Or like I no longer have to make that qualification.
Man, especially after you see some of the stuff we're going to demo in just a little bit. I mean, I set up a usable WordPress site that was like ready to go in 90 seconds earlier. And it's just so easy. It's getting incredibly easy. So I love that. Melissa, I'm kind of in the same boat. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I think you're right that they have such a large base. They're just going to cater to those audiences. In fact, Elementor has kind of proved that that's the direction that they want to go. They have their own hosting now where you can just buy directly from them. It's $99 a year, including their builder and hosting. That's a great deal. That's a platform, right? They're building their own platform for their own customers, where if you sign up for Elementor with their hosting, with their software, their support, their everything, that's awesome. They have their own sort of thing going there. And I would say Elementor is trying to be a Squarespace competitor. I don't know how far they'll get with that, as far as like how, if they're going to get into the kind of marketing that Squarespace is doing with all the podcasts and YouTubers and Super Bowl commercials. But yes, I agree. It's a great deal. If you like what Elementor is offering, I think it's a great software. I think personally that when I use it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so buggy compared to the sort of lightweight WordPress that you can use with the block editor. You certainly have more features and more capabilities, and maybe some people find it more intuitive. So, there's different tools for everyone, and at least it is WordPress based. So you still get a lot of, with Elementor at least, it's not like Show It is WordPress based. It's not. I mean, it's kind of like half integrated with WordPress, whereas Elementor is at least built really on top of WordPress. You can still use most plugins pretty easily. You can still use advanced custom fields and custom post types, and you can build pretty much anything you can imagine with Elementor, where that wouldn't be true on something like Show It. So I think it's a great option for some people. I would say for those people who are trying to get that sort of like Show It feel out of WordPress, then Elementor might be an option you would consider. And if you're going, I've heard mixed reviews on the hosting. It's a great deal, but I've heard some people say that they had some issues or it was slow or something like that. I've not tested thoroughly, but I don't know what Divi's going to do. I'm so out of the loop on Divi because I just hate using Divi. This personal preference. I know that some people love Divi. Melissa, I know you've been building on Divi for years, but when I use Divi, especially if I try to use their visual editor, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this interface? I hate it. But I'm just so used to the modern or the block editor in WordPress now that it feels so foreign to use something like Divi. But yeah, I think they have enough people that it's still, I think, the most popular theme on the internet on WordPress is Divi. I'm pretty sure it's one of the top 5 for sure. And so they have so millions and millions of users that I'm sure they'll keep just kind of catering to those people. Jess, what's up? I'm glad you're here. Amanda hated Divi. Didn't get used to it because it was so frustrating. I was in the same boat. I loved it in 2016 when I first started using it, and it was like the first sort of builder that was really something different. They were really, I think Divi was the first one to fully have a block editor in the way that we see like the current WordPress block editor working. I think they were pioneers in that space. And I think that if they wouldn't have done what they did, I don't think WordPress would be where it is now. So like certainly credit where it's due. Divi was an amazing product. I just think that now they've gone in such a different direction than where WordPress is going. And I think if you're going to stay WordPress long term, you need to embrace this direction that WordPress is going. Yeah. Especially with full site editing and so on. Okay, what questions do we have? Who's got questions about anything to do with WordPress, hosting, getting started with WordPress, people who think that WordPress is difficult or takes a lot of code? I want to hear your experience. I want to hear about your questions, how we might be able to help you with that. And then in a few minutes, after we see if we have some questions, we'll start to get into a little bit of a couple of demos of some things that we have available and things that are kind of out there in the market right now for people who are starting with WordPress. But let's see what kind of questions we have first. Yeah, Dylan, it's funny that you were talking about how like now you feel like you can actually recommend it to your friends. I know even just a few months ago when I was recommending WordPress, I had some people who were starting with it and even using some of the things that I was trying to make available through the membership. And I'm like, it's just, it still feels like it's not quite there. And I think that now I'm starting to change my mind. I think especially because of some of the cadence tools, I'm really changing my mind on that. Went from WordPress to Squarespace multiple times, back on WordPress with Cadence now, and it feels so much easier to build what I want. Exactly. I think if you are used to Squarespace, Cadence is an amazing option. If you're used to Profoto, Cadence is an amazing option. If you're on flow themes, especially if you're using the Flex Builder, it's more, drag and drop based. It's more like a show it. So like if that's what you're looking for, I think that's a really interesting option. Using flow themes, I feel like it might be a bit too slow for Google. Would be better to switch to Cadence. Dylan, why don't you chime in on that?
Yeah, so I didn't really have massive speed or performance issues with my flow themes, my last flow theme site. That was using their latest Flex themes. But that did take some tweaking. Performance plugins like WP Rocket or Perf Matters and a few others like Lightspeed Cache, they will quickly break your flow themes site if you aren't very careful. And so it took a lot of testing on making sure that I didn't have any JavaScript that was necessary for the flow themes to work and render, blocked or delayed when it didn't need to be. So that took a little bit of tweaking, but the performance was fine. I think my overall feeling in general is that flow themes is just like kind of dead in the water after like post Pixie Set. It looks like they're putting all of their effort into bringing that Flex editor onto the Pixie Set platform. And that's just like probably like the worst platform in existence for photographers at the moment. So I can't really recommend it. And if I was on flow themes, I'd probably be looking elsewhere.
Yeah. I saw someone post a question about flow themes yesterday, I think, and they were complaining about speed, like the actual time that it took to load. And I went and tested it in PageSpeed Insights, and it was like getting really great scores. And I think that they're still cheating, like to the like lazy loading to the point where like nothing loads for the PageSpeed Insights test. And so like that doesn't really count. And it was actually taking like 5 seconds with like this little preloader thing that was popping up on the screen. And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
Exactly. But I've got some other questions here. So real quick, Marcel says, is video on websites good or dead? I wouldn't say dead. I don't know if you meant good or bad. I think it's on trend right now. There's a lot of
Yeah.
people using video, especially in like backgrounds and things like that. It's tricky.
Yeah.
If you're using video, you need to really make sure that, if you're people who are not technical at all, I would probably try to stay away from it if you can. But there are solutions out there. You can use some sort of video CDN. Bunny.net is one that we really like, that is like primarily made for video hosting, and they have a lot of embed options that you can do in WordPress. So if you want to use video, you want to make sure that it's small. You want to play around with file formats. You want to really make sure that you're compressing it. If you can get it right and it's not tanking the performance of your site, then certainly it's on trend with design. It's just a matter of, yeah, exactly, for grabbing attention, for adding some
Yeah.
interactivity. I think it's really good. And then embedding videos is also great, especially there's a lot of opportunities for SEO with YouTube, and it being a search engine on its own and being able to display in search results. Even other non-YouTube videos can be displayed in search results. So there's a lot of interesting SEO opportunities with video. And I think video is the way that a lot of people consume most of their content online. So I think that it's certainly a good thing to be experimenting with, and knowing how to incorporate it into your site is certainly a valuable skill at this point. So what other questions we had come in
Yeah.
here?
We had one about using a preloader.
All right.
I'm on team anti-preloader. I want the site to load quick enough that there is absolutely no need for that preloader to be there.
Right.
If your site's so slow that you can actually like view the preloader, wait for the preloader, watch it animate, all that stuff, like holy crap.
I know. I just haven't ever needed one. I
Yeah.
think that there may be some cases, like if you're using something like React, you're like basically maybe you show some sort of preview of a block in modern web development, but like actually showing a preload, that feels like the Flash days or something. Like I don't. To me, I've seen some on sites recently, and I'm like, what is this? Is this like coming back? I don't know. It seems weird to me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Melissa had a question. What are the key features you look for in hosting? Do you have any quick thoughts on that, Dylan?
Yeah. So uptime, like reliability is key.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, good technical support that is prompt, can handle all of the problems that you throw at them in a way that isn't extremely confusing. For me, performance is also somewhat attractive. I like to test uh, a demo site and just see like, is this competitive? Is this going to work for me in my market? Will the typical users in my audience have nice quick loading times? Because I've seen somewhat significant changes in a website's performance, same exact site, just cloned onto a different host, and have like multiple second difference in first contentful paint or largest contentful paint, like massive differences.
Yeah. Yeah. So performance for sure. I mean, just for me, we're loving Cloudways so much right now, and they are staying on top of like modern dashboard and interface, and just it's really easy to manage multiple sites. I love something that lets you use staging. They've got like all kinds of features. If you want them, you can do a automatic updates on all of your WordPress plugins, your WordPress site, and they will like run it. They'll clone your site, make it in staging, um, update the plugins, test with screenshots to see if there's any visual differences, and if there's none, push it back to live automatically behind the scenes, so that you never have to worry about it. Like that's really cool to me. I mean, as far as like getting really nerdy, there's some really things that you might think about, but for most people, I think that Cloudways is that kind of in between there's these companies like Bluehost and SiteGround and HostGator, etc., that really sort of cater to the layperson, right? They're just trying to sell you a product that's easy, and you might not know anything about it, but they're going to say unlimited on everything, and it just seems appealing because it's low price. They're going to trap you with some sort of promotional offer that's going to jack the price up later. And it seems tempting, but I would just avoid that kind of stuff. I think that you should be expecting to pay somewhere between like $20 and $30 a month for great hosting. You could probably get away with like the $12 to $15 range on Cloudways if you have a pretty basic site without a whole lot of traffic. Like if you're under 10,000 visits a month and your site's like, you're not doing e-commerce, you're not doing any kind of like major animations and all kinds of things that's going to like use resources a lot, then you're probably fine with that lower plan. Like the average person that's going to like start really building a lot of traffic and kind of adding some dynamic features might want to go to that second tier, which is going to hold you, like even our sites are running on something around that, I think, most of the time. So I think that Cloudways might be a little bit, for several websites you currently host 8 to 10. Yeah, you can do 8 to 10 on most of the, I wouldn't do the basic $12 a month plan on Cloudways with 8 to 10 sites. I would probably say that 2 gig bundle that's like $24. I don't remember how much it is, something like that, is probably good enough for 8 to 10 sites, especially again, if they're low traffic sites. You
Yeah.
probably get that many pretty easily. They don't have a per site like limit.
Yeah. I've had like 20 plus on a 2 gig server. So.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we got some more questions in here.
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple people have asked about, like, are there certain blocks that you might want to avoid using? And that's a really interesting question, and especially because
Yeah.
there's more than just the WordPress blocks, the Cadence blocks. There's all of these blocks that you can get. And I know that for a while, I was, before I started using Cadence, I was using Astra for pretty much everything. And Astra has their own block suite as well. And before they even made this like new block suite, they had this ultimate add-ons or something like that. I can't remember if that was Astra. Anyway, one of these companies had ultimate add-ons for Elementor, for Gutenberg, for whatever, and they were having like all these security issues. They were getting hacked. It was causing vulnerabilities on sites. You have to be careful with that kind of thing. That's one of the reasons why we're confident in recommending Cadence, because we know the developers. Dylan's worked with he did one of their speaking engagements recently. We talked with them personally. We've kind of read all of their releases and the plans that they have for the future, and we feel really comfortable with them as a company. I mean, certainly anyone, you need to do your own research and kind of figure out who you feel comfortable with, but we can feel pretty comfortable endorsing them. Whereas some of the others, it's hard to say. Like, is it going to be something that's scammy or something that's like they do some development in a really hacky sort of way to give you some features? That's out there with lots of different block plugins. But as far as specific Cadence blocks and WordPress blocks, are there any that you've seen that you would avoid? I know it's funny. It makes me think back to when we were using AMP on everything. And that was one of the big things that pushed us into using Cadence. In the very beginning, Cadence was all AMP compliant because Ben was like really paying attention to that space. Now they're like, okay, no one's care about AMP anymore. And there were a few blocks back then that would break AMP, and they knew it. And it's like, well, if you want these blocks, then you're going to have to sacrifice a little bit. And you have a story about this just yesterday. You were like fixing the slider plugin.
Totally.
Or
Yeah,
block.
for sure. I was running into an issue, and this is kind of going to answer the question, but I was using I think it was the slider or the gallery slider plugin, and there's like 6 different ways it can render the images. And one of the ways that we had selected, I think it was called gosh, I'd have to go look. But it was not rendering perfectly for desktop and mobile. And this also answers the Scottish bagpiper question. I was trying to have it load 5 or 6 images wide on desktop and then only 1 on mobile, and having a hard time. That was affecting loading time pretty significantly, as you can't set a separate thumbnail size for desktop and mobile. So I ended up changing to a slightly different version of that rendering of the slideshow, a different mode. And then with that, you could tell it exactly how many images to show for each pixel width device. And I think that it went in like 5 steps. So you could tell it custom increments of device widths, how many images you want to show. And that was able to perfectly tweak both performance and aesthetics of that plugin.
And that was built in to Cadence?
Built into Cadence.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. I tried like some really custom tweaks before I found the slider options that were right there in front of me the whole time.
Right.
Which I've realized on Cadence, there are enough people actually actively using Cadence and developing on it that any time I've ran into a problem, a quick search of their Facebook group will show like 10 other people that had that problem, and then somebody saying like, oh yeah, we either are going to make this fix or we made this fix or here's how you do it, which is incredible.
And I'm even thinking about developing some custom options for, I've messed around with it a little bit, but the slider that they use, which one is it now? I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah. Let me go look.
Anyway, they're using a common JavaScript library for the slider. It's like a very popular slider. And if you go to their like GitHub, it'll show you like all these advanced options that you can enable. If you even know just a little bit of JavaScript, or can ask ChatGPT, or can like talk to someone who does, you can do all kinds of custom things on top of what they do if you want. That's one of the nice things. Yeah, Splide. Yeah. So it's one of the nice things about WordPress in general is that if you want to get nerdy with it, like you've got access to everything. You can do whatever you want. Um,
Yeah,
okay, so we've answered some questions. If you have more questions, keep dropping them here in the comments. And
I think the quick,
go
the
ahead.
one from Scottish Bagpipers was really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
He just wants to know, does Cadence give you the ability to render specific content for desktop and mobile? And I think they go out of their way on every block to have that option,
Yep.
where you can specifically design it for both desktop and mobile responsively without having to hide entire sections on desktop and hide entire sections on mobile, which
Yeah.
I think is a pretty poor choice.
Yeah, I will say since Cadence Blocks 3, I like some of the new options that they have with row layouts and sections and how you can interact with these, especially if you really understand what they're doing with CSS. It can be so easy to kind of do things that are a little more responsive out of, off the bat. It just works responsively like you would want. If I'm going to make one complaint about Cadence, it's going to be that and it's really not even just a Cadence thing, it's more of a WordPress thing. I wish that WordPress would fix the mobile preview so that it's more accurate. Like, I want to
Yeah,
see what it actually is going to look like on mobile, because when you try to edit on mobile, it's not really going to match what I think it looks like on mobile. So really you have to kind of open another screen and preview it in that screen. Like, you can use Chrome and use the developer tools and just preview mobile, and that works fine. It will take a little bit of getting used to, where you need to sort of like understand what changes are going to make what impact on mobile. I will say it's a little bit frustrating sometimes in that regard. It's not impossible. It's not extremely difficult, especially once you learn the tricks. It's really just a matter of like, oh, I know what it is. That's inheriting this padding from the desktop version, and I need to go explicitly set it to 0. Otherwise, it's not
exactly.
going to inherit. Those kinds of things, like when you learn them, it's no big deal. But
And then
it
set
is a
your block
pain.
default.
Yeah, exactly. Um, we got something here. Copying. Oh, let's see. Let me see who that is. If I can get a
Yeah,
read from Facebook.
that is Zach Davis.
Zach. Okay, so copying over a bunch of older posts from my Squarespace to my new WordPress site using the original published dates. Does Google care about the published dates on posts at all? Do they prioritize new content? You want to talk about that, Dylan?
Yeah, so this is a situation where you can have people talk about the Google patents and what Google says they are doing and what they should do, which is that for every piece of content on the web, they will try to have an origination date of that content. And they'll treat that as the original author. They'll try to assign canonical to that, and they'll try to track that content throughout the web. If people republish on their site, they'll still try to give credit to the original author, etc.
Try being the keyword.
Try. Yeah, it doesn't really happen. Um, what we've found, or what I found at least with content on my own site and sites I've worked on, is that Google does seem to prioritize newer content, even for SERPs or for topics that really aren't time sensitive. So I might have a wedding that's at a certain venue. That post might have been published like 6 years ago. I can just go in and maybe make a few changes, maybe even not make any changes, just change the publish date to like this week, republish it, index that in Google, and the rankings improve. Uh, so that and I've seen this work many times across many sites. So
Yeah.
typically newer publishing dates on important content's better.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a little tricky. There's a lot of myths out there, and there's a lot of people who are kind of like drawing the wrong conclusions from things that they're seeing with things like that. I think that it's complex. I think that a page has page authority, just like a domain has domain authority. And if you update a page that already has authority because other sites are linking to it, it's been around, it's got some social signals, maybe it's got a comment section that's active. Like, all of these signals can be good as well, right? A aged page. But if you update that page to have a newer published date or to have an updated date, to change some things on the page. Just last week, I had someone in our membership in the office hours who was talking about a page that they lost the featured snippet to someone else who basically copied their content. And we looked at it, we pulled it up, and we took their content and looked for a few key things that we could improve. We're thinking like, what could have changed? What might people really be looking for here? Can we just make a few tweaks? Tweaked it just a little bit to add those improvements and won that feature snippet back the next day. So like, little updates can certainly make a big difference in your ability to kind of maintain rankings. And I highly recommend keeping your content up to date, especially on anything that is timely or needs to, like, if someone reads it, if they would think, is this old? We have that problem on our Feel Your Photo site, and a lot of
Yeah.
times we're not keeping it enough up to date even in the eyes of Google. Sometimes we'll think, it's close enough. It's still basically the same information, but not updating it can hurt the ranking of it. So certainly something that I do think matters as far as the actual published date. And like, it's not quite that black and white. They do have some other data about when it was published, and how they treat published date versus updated date might be a little bit different, very on various platforms or things like that. Marcel wants to know about how we see AI and web design going. We just had a whole podcast episode about AI, but that was mostly about content. Cadence is doing some interesting things with AI and the cloud library, and being able to give a prompt about what you want your website to look like, and then it give you custom sections that are built off of that prompt that you can then insert through the cloud library. I think that's kind of where we'll probably see things going, is more and more as we see these cloud libraries, which we'll talk about next. As we see these become more and more standard, as we see WordPress really move towards what they're calling patterns, we'll have this huge section of patterns available on WordPress.org. So if you go to the repository right now, you can filter for patterns. And I think what will happen is there will be pretty much anything, any sort of simple layout that you can think of will be a WordPress pattern that you can just get instantly from WordPress.org, which, by the way, you can go to their site in the repository, click copy, go back to your website and just paste it in, and it will paste that section into your layout, which is really cool. But if there's 10,000 patterns in the WordPress repository, it would be incredibly easy. This is open source, right? So anyone could build an AI that's trained on those 10,000 patterns and say, here are the types of layouts and patterns that are typical for content. And, then you might also train it on entire sites in a certain industry. So like I said, just training on photography sites as kind of the specialized training on, and then the patterns in WordPress as like the general training. And then you say, build me a photography site. And it's going to look at what photography sites generally look like, take those patterns and build it. That will be very easy for AI to do. So I do think we'll see some things like that. And I think WordPress is a good place to be if you're thinking about the future of web design and AI together. I think that's going to be really interesting. Speaking of cloud libraries, let's get into that a little bit. How do we want to demo some stuff here, Dylan? Do you want to start with anything in particular? I was thinking I can fire up a site in InstaWP and just like show how fast you can set up WordPress. We want to demo a couple of cloud libraries, and then maybe also show some options for cloud libraries that are out there. So you want to start? Can I just start with the InstaWP?
Yeah, that totally works.
Go from there. Okay, so if you are a member in our membership right now, you have access to some things that we have built for Cadence and getting started. If you are thinking about doing it yourself, if you want to build your website from scratch and learn how to do it, we have some great resources for you if that's the kind of thing that you love. We have a new child theme. It's called Canvas, and it's just it's meant to be a literal blank canvas. So I want to show you that first. Okay, so we have someone here saying, level the content lately, been super happy with Cadence and Cloudways, but keep getting emails from them that my disk space is insufficient. I need to upgrade from the original. Okay, that's a good question. Dylan, can you talk about that for a minute while I get the
totally
going?
Yeah, we'd have to look at your site in particular. One way we could do that, if you give somebody FTP access, they can actually look at the file structure of your site and see how large it is and what is causing you need that much data. Since you're a photographer, it's probably photos. Maybe you had a performance optimization plugin like Short Pixel or something where you compressed all of your images, but it kept the originals as well as backup. And maybe you did that multiple times. You have multiple backups. If that's the case, it's easy to go in and find multiple gigabytes of space. So really, it's up to how much space your site needs and what size server you're on.
I would start with Cloudways support. I've had several people who have had this issue, and they've gone to their support and said, can you run a diagnostic for me and tell me like what I'm doing that's using so much space? And most of the people who have tried that with their support have gotten helpful responses where they have pointed out specifically what's taking up the space. If you can get that from them and then come back to us, we'll be happy to try to help you figure out further what you might be able to do. It may be a matter of compressing images. It may be a matter of upgrading because you need more space. There's a lot of different directions you can go with that.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit frustrating once you get up into like the 20 to 30 gigabyte range of site space, it does start to push up against the limits of the typical size hosting that we recommend. And I think that for the most part, you don't really need that much space. Like most photography sites should be under 15 gigabytes, I think. Like
Yeah.
even with 10 years worth of photos, you probably should be under 15 gigabytes if you're uploading the
Yeah.
right size. So that's
The photos should be compressed and they should be limited to a certain pixel dimension. Like you probably don't need more than 2100 or so, 2200 pixels
yeah,
long edge. If you're uploading full resolution, that might cause that issue quicker.
yeah,
Um, or if you're like hosting galleries or something, I don't know. We'd have
yeah.
to really see. We had one client site where they had like I think it was like 50 gigs of logs or something from like
Wow.
a performance issue
Yeah,
or like a bug. But
yeah, yeah. There's stuff like that too sometimes. So let's let us know what they say. Maybe we can help you from there. All right, let's go to share screen, and we're gonna go here. All right, so Instant WP, it's a really fun playground. If any of you are designers or developers, you might love Instant WP. And it is, watch this. Okay, so I'm gonna click add new, and I'm just gonna click create site with the defaults. You see that? My WordPress site's ready. I click magic
amazing.
login. There was no WordPress site before, and here we have a WordPress site ready to go. So if I go and visit this right now, this is what WordPress looks like out of the box in 2023. It's using I think it's using the 2023 theme, and that's what you'll get if you just install WordPress. But let's take this a little bit further. We're going to kind of show you how fast you can get up something. Now, I want to show you just a really quick tip. I like to hide here everything except for at a glance. It just makes me feel so much less
Yeah.
overwhelmed when I log into WordPress. If you see updates here in WordPress, for the most part, if you are running clean, modern WordPress, you can update anything anytime and not really have to worry about it. The more plugins that you add and the more third-party developers that you're mixing, the more chances that there might be some issues with updates, and you don't always need to do the updates immediately. These are not usually going to be critical to the point where if you don't update, you're going to have major problems. Sometimes that can happen. Usually, I like to stay on the email notification for any like third-party plugins that I'm using. If they have some sort of vulnerability, they'll usually let you know via email really quickly. And there's also monitoring and stuff that you can set up for that. But for the most part, WordPress updates and plugin updates, if you're using Cadence and the plugins that we're going to recommend, you can pretty much update anything anytime and just keep it all updated. You don't have to worry about that.
Or set it to auto update.
Exactly. It hasn't always been that way, I will say. And there's certain themes. Man, that was another nightmare for me on Divi when I was
And
like,
Elementor.
yeah, whenever they will like upgrade to a new version of Divi, I'm like, I better not update this. It's going to break everything.
For 3 months.
You should never have that problem on Cadence. I can't guarantee that. Like, there certainly could be issues where they make some big changes and it does break something on your site. So just know that. And it's great to have some sort of backup. If you're using something like Cloudways, you can easily do rollbacks. I think they do 15 or 30 days.
Yeah.
Check with them, but it's automatic. And then you can also use a plugin if you want to save a manual backup. I would probably do that once a month or once a quarter. It's really easy. It's as simple as like run a button, press a button to run the backup. Okay, let's get into this. So I'm going to add so I'm going to go to appearance and I'm going to go to themes and I'm going to add this canvas theme that I was just telling you about. So we're just going to click add new. And then we will upload. I'll choose that file. And there it is. Install it. And once it installs, we're going to just click activate. Activate. Now this automatically installed Cadence for me. Okay. And so this is the Canvas child theme. Cadence got installed. Cadence is the parent theme here. A child theme basically makes it so that the things that I set in my customizer are going to kind of stick to the child theme. And then if I want to make custom edits to the theme files, I can edit the child theme files. And when the Cadence theme gets updated, it won't overwrite that. It asks you to install Cadence starter templates. For some of you, that's going to be a really smart move. I'm going to go ahead and install it here just because there's some things that you can do with this, even if you're not going to use their starter templates. But notice with that, I already have a beautiful gallery of starter templates that I can use from Cadence. Now, some of these are pro. If you're using Cadence and you buy the theme or the plugin for the builder, you can get the pro library options here. for the most part, you don't need these. Like I've seen some photographers who have built straight off of this and it works great. So they're an option for you, but we're going to show you something else here in just a minute. So there's a couple of things that we also want to do just as part of the setup. We're going to really quickly go to plugins and we're going to add a new plugin. We're going to add the cadence. If we just type in cadence right here, we can just get this cadence blocks plugin. So when you hear us talk about cadence blocks, this is the plugin. It's free. There is a pro version that adds some really cool functionality for certain blocks. Do not recommend staying below any specific number of pages. No, that's more of just a management and upkeep kind of thing. Like you don't want to let it get out of control. But not necessarily like there's not any like thing that's going to be a problem with that as far as like SEO or anything like that. Okay, real quick, just going to address some of these things in the comments. Clive says I read that Cadence wasn't ready for WordPress 6.2.2. I don't know. I haven't messed with that. I've got everything up to date with the current versions of WordPress, and I've running Cadence, and I'm not having any issues. Dylan, you know anything about that?
No, I'm fully up to date as well. No
Uh,
problems.
yeah, if you're reaching 20 gigabytes, it's time to invest in some maintenance. Yeah, exactly. If you're like 5 to 10 years worth of content, you really should be under 20 as well for the most part. I think a lot of people that I see having these problems, they were on something like Profoto where it was building like 18 versions of your thumbnail for every image that you uploaded. And then they have like these, which is actually pretty easy to get rid of. So anyway, there's a lot of things like that. Okay, so right now we've got the Cadence theme installed, our child theme installed, the starter templates plugin, and the blocks plugin. And with just that, what we can do, let's go to pages. We're going to add a new page and we're going to call this home and get rid of that tutorial. I'm going to publish this because I do want to show you one thing that we want to do. We're going to go back into the dashboard really quick and we're going to go to settings and reading and set the home page to home. Okay, there's a static page here for the home page. That's just something we'll do really quickly. We don't need to get into all the details of that, but that is one thing I would do pretty much every time. If we go to this site now, this is what it looks like. Okay, we'll hit customize really quick and just add something in this site identity. We want to give it some sort of name here. We'll just call this demo site so it doesn't have that crazy URL. Okay, we're going to publish that. And that's a blank canvas, right? That's what I told you I was going to give you with this starter. And that's what it seems like silly that you would even use this, but I will tell you that getting to this point with this sort of blank canvas that's already kind of got like things full width, that it's not showing like the default cadence is a little bit of a mess and it takes maybe 20 or 30 minutes of changing settings to get it cleaned up. And that's basically just done for you here. Okay, so we're going to go back to the home page and we'll just hit edit page. And what I want to show you is like this with Canvas, you'll get, if you click on the design library, I've already got what we are calling Kindling Cloud, which is our sort of membership supported cloud library, which has quite a few sections for you already. These are pretty basic, but you've got some full pages that you can insert here, or you can insert one section at a time. And it's actually, it's pretty nice. If you want to see, this is like a demo of like the whole thing, but let's actually go back to here, and we can just go to full page and we can hit this home page right here. It'll take just a second and it's going to insert that for us into the page. And the cool thing is what it's going to do is adopt all of the settings from our site. So we'll just update this really quick and we'll go to view that page. And so this is our site, our WordPress site in, what I could have done that in 90 seconds. We already got a site that's looking pretty decent for, really, really simple setup. If I hit edit on this now, or I can just go back to here actually, I can change things on here really easily right here inline editing, just like you would expect from, feels like Squarespace really. You click on this and you can change the heading type, or you can type in here, or you can go over here to the right and you can change the font size. You could change the typography. You can change anything that you would expect to change about this. And notice that if, like, for example, let's say I go down here and I'm going to do an H2 like this. This is a regular WordPress heading, regular editor block. And you see that's an H2 block. And over here, I've got the text color, the background color, and then I have the size, the appearance, the letter case. This is all I can change. Whereas with the Cadence advanced block, I now have, or advanced text block is what I'm talking about. I now have like more options that I can do. I can go into advanced and change things like padding and margin. I can do all kinds of things that I couldn't do with just the block editor. And that's the beauty of the cadence blocks, is that you have the ability to do more than just the WordPress blocks. And the WordPress blocks are meant to be foundational. They're meant to be extended. They want developers to take the base that they give them with these default blocks and then build whatever they want on top of it, because they don't believe that WordPress should be making all of the decisions on what you should and shouldn't be able to do with blocks. And third-party developers can make those decisions for their customer base and then support those decisions for their customer base. That's what Cadence is doing. Okay, they're extending the default editor with smart options that people would like to do with these types of blocks. Hopefully that makes sense. If anybody has questions, feel free to drop them in. But you can see, again, here we have all of this, and that's, so easy. It's ready to go. We can, we'll keep that change, and then we'll go back to the dashboard. We can go in here and make a post if we wanted to. To add a new blog post, all we need to do is just, I'm not going to worry about that errors and stuff, blah, blah, blah. We can just publish it and we have a new blog post. And like the management of blog post, and by the way, this has like some nice defaults. It's pretty clean. And on the canvas, I tried to make sure you had some default options that just made things really nice and simple, with a left aligned site name or logo, with a right aligned menu, and all of that's just built in. So again, if you're looking for this, Clive, if you're in, I know you're in the membership, so you can go in and it's in there now. I just did some brand new updates to, we're calling the theme now Canvas, and it's just, like I said, it's a blank canvas. And there's the cloud library. It's already installed if you use that, or there's an access key there in the membership. If you can't find it, just ping me there in the membership anywhere, and I will be happy to get you that stuff. Okay, so now that's if you are trying to do it yourself and you don't want to just start from blank, like just figure it all out. You can use this. If you're a member, this is all included. There's nothing extra that you need to pay for. What I'm showing you right now is all on free plugins and free themes. All you would need is hosting, right? So whatever, if you go to Cloudways, you can go for as low as $12 a month. You could build this. You could build this on that plan. Now, if you want to make some, major, like you want to get more advanced, like I don't know if Amanda's still here, but yeah, thanks, Melissa. Yeah, this one was really built specifically for site structure. It's kind of proving how headings should be used, and that's like, if you're really thinking about SEO, this is an example of how you might structure your headings. We're going to show you something else here in a minute that's also doing that. And yeah, so Amanda, she was using free everything and got her site up and running, and it was great for, several weeks or months, and it was fine. You could totally do everything you needed to do with free, but it made sense to update to Pro for a few of the blocks. And like, if you want to use hooked elements to build a new footer or header, or there's lots of advanced things you can do. If you get nerdy like that with your website and want to, there are some really cool things in Pro as well. Okay, so let's say that you're not the kind of person who wants to just build from scratch, and you don't want to do it all yourself, and you want to start with someone who's already made a beautiful design. I mean, I think this design is nice. We actually had a designer help make this, and I thought it was great for something that's free for people who just want to start with that. But if you want something that is really designed and custom, there are designers out there who have cloud libraries and child themes for Cadence, where you can start with something that is already made. So let's look at some of the options there. Dylan, you want to take over and show what you have to show here, or do you want to let me install?
Totally.
Let's do that first, and then we can show some other options here.
Okay.
Stop the screen share.
Awesome. Let me get my screen share set up properly as well.
While you're doing that, I'm going to take this question here. If my WordPress site is super old, would you recommend starting over completely if I want to switch from flow themes to Cadence? Or do you have resources about cleaning up an old site to have a more fresh start? Getting some server errors and might have a lot of unnecessary stuff in there. If I were doing that, I would probably, if I were using, like, I would use Cloudways, and I would basically clone my site. It's probably in that specific case, I would make a brand new site and then I would export my posts or pages, anything that I want, and import them into that demo site and kind of shape it up that way. You could clone it and build it on like just like break everything and kind of have someone who's doing that right now. There's different methods here, but I would pretty much be thinking of it as kind of a restart. If you're on an older flow theme site, I would probably start with something brand new instead of trying to like clean up what you have and then slowly merge over. While that's possible, I think it's going to be more of a headache to do that.
Yeah, I've had the best luck with a fresh installation as well. In that case, you don't know what's hiding in that like dusty old database.
Yep. All right, what you got, Dylan?
Okay, let me share my screen right here. Okay, should be shareable now.
Got it? Got
Cool.
it.
So yeah, this is Site C, and it's my wife Jess started this. It's a new WordPress theme, child themes based on Cadence, and the real selling factor here is that they're using SEO tactics throughout all of the content and the design to walk you through how to best optimize your site.
Imagine if you were a designer who had a
Right?
husband who was an SEO pro and has a course on how to make your site perfect with SEO.
Totally.
Wow.
Imagine. So yeah, right now there's one template. It's called Caldera, and we can view that. And so yeah, this is Caldera. Pretty much everything I could think of in our toolbox of how to set up a site properly out of the box. Any recommendations I could come up with, we tried to implement here. The performance scores are like 100 on desktop, and I think it was like 97, 98 for mobile. Just heading structure, dialed, everything that we have in our lesson in the course, like the perfect homepage, we tried to include that as well. This is set up so you can have multiple specialties, or you can just like delete this section if you only have one specialty. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I really like this layout, and it's all of the pages are included. You might notice that there's like a wedding venue guide, and it walks you how to set up your wedding venue guide.
Like notice how everything here is in like variables, and it has like your keyword, your location, venue name. It's showing you exactly what to put in these spaces.
Exactly. And it's built on Cadence, and it's using the customizer. So you can install this theme today and just go in and like set your colors, set your buttons, set your fonts, change your logo, and you're pretty much set. And then it's just time to start swapping out the text copy and photos.
Yeah. And you have there's also a video to take you through the setup and
exactly.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, you saw how easy it was for me earlier setting up that theme. Same idea here. It will be just that easy to set this up, and then you can be off and running with something that's already a beautiful design that's well thought out. It's planned. It is intentional. It's showing you exactly where to put what, and it's none of it is done by chance. It's not just to build a template that looks like other templates. I mean, it does look like a typical WordPress or photographer website on purpose, but also very intentionally using the sections that we would want you to use if you're trying to optimize for search. So that is a great starting point. If you want to get going on that, it's now available for sale. You can get it. We're going to show you a couple other things. We'll put up I have a little thing we can put in here to show you how to get it and get the special price and everything right now. But let me show you a couple of things here, because I want you to see that we have the like starter template, and Jess has this new theme that's really built based on, our course and Dylan's expertise on SEO, and even has the venue guide and the elopement guide and like everything like already built into it. But what we really think is a lot of designers out there who have been building for specifically Squarespace or Showit, or Profoto, a lot of people are going to start offering Cadence clouds. Melissa's still here, and I know that she has one that is about to release. I'm not sure if it's out yet, Melissa, but I can show the sort of like demo or the preview of it. And the thing is, you can use multiple pieces from multiple designers and sort of mix and match and put it all into your own site if you want. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to provide Canvas as well. Let me go back to see if I can take back over screen share really quick.
Yeah, do it.
If so, for example, if I go in here and I go into, let's see, oh, that's the wrong one. Go back into this, edit page. 2 weeks we're in beta. Yeah, exactly. That's it's going to be. Let's actually. I'll show you. I think I have it open here somewhere. Yeah. So Melissa has. Here's some examples of the sections that are going to be available from Melissa's cloud library. And I believe Melissa will also have some sort of child theme or starting point if you want to just like jump in full on, use this as like an entire cohesive site. You could do that. If you want to install just the cloud library and add some of these sections into a site that's using some of the other things we've showed you, you could do that. Same with there's Restored 316 has now built all of their themes into block collections that you can buy. So you could buy these. I believe that's just a one-time price to get that collection, and you get all of the blocks that they have for that particular theme. And there'll be a Cadence cloud library. And just kind of to show you really quick how that works, let's do, Dylan, will that license that you gave me earlier, will it work again, or is it only for
It should.
one? Okay,
Yeah.
let me try it really quick. I'll move it off the screen so I don't show any licensing, but I'm going to basically, well, actually I'll bring it back to show you this part.
It's pretty locked down. There's only 2 uses on that license.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so you go here into the design library, and you can click here to add a new cloud. So let me see. Let's see if I can get back to that really quick. And so basically you just put in the URL of the designer and you put in the key that they give you when you buy their cloud, add that. Now see how I have Sightseed design? I can go here. And so let's say I want to go back. Let's just leave this. We'll make a new page really quick. This is my demo site that I set up earlier. So same on the Canvas theme here. And then I can go in here and now I have access to all of these sections that were in the Caldera. So I just can click on one of these, insert it into my site. And when I publish, that's going to be, I've got that on my site now. So that's how easy it is to add a new cloud library. And I really think that this is going to be, can you use WordPress with Squarespace? No, not exactly. That Squarespace is a separate platform. So WordPress is software that is open source, that's to be self-hosted. And so it's not something you can use on Squarespace. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of show that this is really cool that we now have this cloud that on your site, when you go into your editor, you'll be able to come into here and add other people's cloud libraries. A lot of people are going to add them, sell them. You'll have one-time sales. You'll have subscriptions. Designers are going to do this in all different ways, but it brings it all into your WordPress and you get to kind of mix and match however you want. So like, for example, if I drop in a section from this starter, and we also have this section from Caldera. I think this one, I might have the older version that's not inheriting the
I saw that. Yeah, it's the wrong one.
But it's okay. Dylan already fixed that issue. But if we go to, like, let's say I go to the customizer here, and I want to change my fonts across the site. I can go in here, and let's say I want to change all of my headings to use. I'm just going to randomly pick a font. Another font, again, this one, it would update normally, but all of the sections from different libraries could just update to have all of your fonts inherited. If I want to change my colors, I can go in here. I can set my own colors here in a palette. I can have up to 3 palettes, and there's even some cool things you can do with like dynamic switching and things like that. I can load more palettes in here. I can even import palettes from designers may just give you a palette, or designers may sell you a style kit that will allow you to change all of your fonts and colors across your entire site, and all your blocks will just update to use all of the new styles that you have. So it's not something that locks you into looking like everybody else's site. You can so quickly and easily change Like I can even show you an example really quick. If you look at, we had I think I closed it. The starter family demo I showed you earlier, and then let's look at Amanda's site. I know it uses. Whoop, that's the wrong thing. That's Amazon. Let's go to this. And she's customized this to be, exactly. You can see that it's using the same layouts, but it's just adding those like pink tones and changing her photos and everything made it look really custom. And she also like changed the layout a little bit here. You can make your own sections, and something that we're going to be bringing into the membership here. I'm going to experiment with it next month. Right now, I've been doing 3 office hours every week, but I'm going to start doing 2 Tuesday and Thursday office hours with just any kind of Q&A. And then on Wednesdays specifically, it's going to be Cadence support. So we're going to do anyone who's got a Cadence site can come in, and we can talk about sections. We can talk about building custom sections, anything like that. Let's go ahead and look back at this. I want to show you guys. I want to make sure that you have the pow. Let's see if that works. This one is 125 right now, and you can actually, I think you can scan that QR code. It'll take you to it, or you can just go to sitecdesign.com/Caldera and get this as a starting point. I think this is the way right now to get started, and you'll be able to use that base as well with any of the other libraries that you want to pull in. So if you want to get started with something that's already ready to go, that's a great way to get started right now. And then I know that there's a cool site club as well. Check that out. So there'll be some kind of custom sort of community / support there. You'll have, if you're a member, you have that kind of extra layer of support there. Any other designer that makes these sections will probably have some layer of support there. And then with Cadence, you have the Cadence Facebook group. And then if you're a pro user, you have their like ticketed support. So all that's important to know as well, because if you're using WordPress, you don't have platform support, right? You either have to go through your hosting to get support, or you'll have to go through whatever third party developed the things that you're using. So that could be your theme, or that could be a plugin, or that could be a designer who made some layouts. But just know that in these cases, you've got us. We're behind the membership, and Dylan and Jess are behind the Sitesee designs. And I think that, man, it's just such a good way. If you're thinking about SEO, if you're thinking about practically using your site to attract searchers, this is the place to be right now, right? It's so focused on how people use search engines, all the things that we teach. So we've been teaching for so long. And so far, even the people who have been using the starter template, we've seen improvements when they've switched from other platforms. We've seen things moving up slowly in the rankings just from using a more well-structured site. And I think it's so easy. And it's, again, you've got that support built in with us. So we would love to have some of you trying this. We also have a special member pricing on Caldera. So if you're a member, I don't have it up on the screen or anything right now because this isn't the public group, but if you're a member, feel free to reach out or just send us a message in the membership or something like that. We'll probably post in there, Dylan. Yeah. I'll let you handle that because we'll have a special pricing there as well. All right, what other questions do we have? What do you want to see us demo right now, or what can we show you as far as anything to do with WordPress, anything that you want to see as far as Cadence goes, questions you have about sections, questions you have about editing, questions you have about getting started, hosting, any of that. I'll throw this up here on the screen as well in case you're interested in the membership. We're going to get ready to update that landing page a little bit because, in fact, let me show you one more thing really quick while I've got this membership thing up on the screen. Let's share the screen one more time.
Andrea, this video is live right now, but the recording will stay available in the group.
Yeah. In the membership, we've had for a while, we have our SEO course. That's kind of our staple flagship course, and it's got a whole bunch of lessons that are, like we've said earlier, this is kind of what that theme was built on. things like optimize your homepage, the perfect homepage lesson. That's in here for sure. We have our community. It's not a Facebook group. We do have a Facebook group for members if you want to use it, but we have this sort of forum specifically for members. If you've noticed that I've been a little more quiet in Facebook groups, Dylan's been doing a great job answering questions and stuff, but I've been really trying to give my attention to the people who have joined the membership. Again, doing 3 office hours a week where you can come in and answer or ask any questions that we'll like dig into specifically. And then we have kind of our forums in here where you can ask questions, and we have our monthly content thread, and it's become really active. Let's see, how many comments did we have? 58 comments this month so far. Like, a lot of people are really active here. And then what I wanted to show you is that we just got the first version of our new content course available. I am so excited about this. It comes with the Notion template that I clicked it. Let's see what happens for your our content machine Notion template. It comes with like all of these lessons about how to build content, how to pick content, defining your message and your market, getting the right topics, coming up with a long list of topics, picking the ones that are going to win, building topics or building content that's going to rank in Google. We have been working on this for almost a year now. I started the workshop in August of last year, did the first round. People loved it. We did 4 more rounds since then, and then decided to turn this into a course that you can do at your own pace. And what I'm imagining here is that if you do one of these maybe each week or every other week, you can join the office hours and then ask for feedback. You can show us what you've done, and I can give you more feedback and assignments. It's very hands-on, and we're there to help you with all of that. Just wanted you to see that this is part of the membership now, included in what you get there with the membership. Whoops. Let's see. Go back to this, and let's go back off the screen share, and let's see what other questions we have about WordPress. Yes, I'm glad that you're seeing that. If you haven't logged in a while, there's a lot of new stuff. Make sure you check it out, because we're really I've made it a huge priority recently to add new things to the membership and really support members in there. So make sure you get in there and jump in on the office hours, ask questions in the community. We're really doing a lot there. Let's see. Any other WordPress questions? Anything else you want us to show you about WordPress, or complaints that you have about WordPress if you've tried it and thought that it was too difficult, or if you're using Cadence now and you have questions that are specific to Cadence that we might be able to answer? I think we have a few more minutes. We can stick around and answer anything like that if anybody's got anything. Dylan, any other things that you want to demo? Anything that I have a question for you. Are
Totally.
you and Jess planning to have more themes available in the future?
Yeah, I think she has 3 new themes in the works, or 2 more for a total of 3. But yeah, following the same basic format, but just different design aesthetics.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think there's so many cool things that we can experiment with, as far, like I said, style kits with different colors and fonts. I've been asking people in the membership if anybody wants to contribute. So in that Kindling Cloud, we're going to have like member submitted layouts on those calls that I'm planning on doing next month. If there'll probably be some new sections that we'll make there and make available. It's just so much. There's so much that's like, really, this is the right time to be using all of this, and I'm excited about all of that. How soon would you recommend switching domains since the Google domain to Squarespace situation?
What is
I've
the
talked
timeline
about this
there?
like 5 times in live calls in the past couple of weeks. So
Yeah, is the timeline? It's roughly like what, 6 months away from the actual them taking
maybe
over,
3
more or
months. They
less.
said Q3.
Okay.
It will be like
Oh,
official.
that is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm still looking at that as well. I haven't made a decision where I want to end up.
I think it's going to just depend on the terms of the deal.
Yeah.
It seems like there's not going to be a rush. Like, I think that at least the pricing will stay the same for 12 months after they do the official deal, which will be again Q3. So you
Yeah.
probably have like 15 months of the pricing not changing. I would imagine nothing else will change drastically in that time period as far as existing customers. Like, I don't think you're going to lose features or your DNS is going to change, like nothing like that. I can't imagine that they would do that. Otherwise, I don't think Google would sell to them. I do think that eventually they'll probably increase the pricing. And I think that I'm very interested to see, like, what do they do with it? It's called Google Domains. So are they going to rename it? Is it going to be Squarespace Domains? Is it, I don't know. It could be amazing. They could do like, they could be an awesome registrar, and it's just good to go. So maybe you don't have to change it all, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I would say just kind of keep an eye on it. I'm probably going to be moving mine, in sometime in the fall, if after I see the deal, what the details are. A couple of questions here. How do I get started and switch? Pay about $220 a year for Squarespace. Will this be comparable? I think so. Let's see. What did we say earlier on? So if you were to get the medium, like, if you're using, okay, so you could start as low as $12 a month on Cloudways, and I think that would be suitable for a lot of sites. If it's a Squarespace site now, probably okay on the $12 a month plan. It'll tell you if you sign up on Cloudways that it's not recommended for live WordPress sites, but we've run that base plan on lots of WordPress sites and had no issues. If your site's very large, has a lot of photos, has e-commerce, has more than 10,000 visits a month, you're probably looking more at the next level up. Yeah, Melissa, thanks for staying around, and we are really looking forward to seeing what you do with Cadence. We'll certainly let people know about it, and let us know as things are wrapping up with your beta and you're ready to launch it. We'll be happy to share some links for you. I think you've got some beautiful designs there. But yes, as far as the pricing goes, Cadence or WordPress is free. Cadence, you can get away with the free version for a lot. Pretty much everything we've demoed here today was using free. I know, again, you can do quite a bit. And then if, let's see, had to upgrade to the 2 gig plan, could be issues you mentioned earlier. Yeah, exactly. I think there are some sites that run into issues. I wish I could like really pinpoint it for you to tell you exactly which issues might cause you to have to upgrade. But let's just say that that you're going to have to upgrade to the 2 gig plan on Cloudways. What's the exact pricing on that right now, Dylan? Do you know?
I'm just now looking. Right now it is 14 for the 1 gig and 28 for the 2 gig. So they just double.
On digital, yeah, I forgot DigitalOcean bought Cloudways, so they don't have
Exactly. So there's
Vulture.
no more Vulture.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, your 25 gigs on the 1 gig server, that should be more than enough for any photography site. If you need a 50 gig server, you probably have other issues, I think.
Right. But that 2 gigs of RAM really will fix like any performance issues. If you have,
Yeah.
I think if you're running WooCommerce, for example, I would only be thinking about that sort of
Yeah.
middle plan. And then if you may also want to consider WPX as an option, which is also in that same sort of price range, $24 a month or something like that. But again, this is when you are using WordPress, your first stop is hosting. Okay. Don't go to WordPress.org. You don't need anything from there. Don't go to WordPress.com. Definitely don't need anything from there. You need hosting first. And so we really recommend Cloudways. And then if you want to consider something else, check out WPX. And maybe start with the lowest one. It's $14 a month right now on the premium, or $11 a month on the standard. You could probably you could start today on the $11 a month plan, and it will probably be okay. Okay. If you run into problems with that, then you can easily upgrade. But just know that if you're going to upgrade, it's going to be either $24 or $28 a month, depending on if you get the premium version. Premium version just has faster hard drives and better hardware, things like that. So it's like their newest hardware, where the other stuff, I mean, like when you have these data servers that are, they build these server racks that are millions and millions of dollars, they're going to use them for as long as they can. And many of them are good for many years, but they still have newer stuff that they're putting out. So that's kind of, if you're using premium, you're getting the newest technology with the hardware. And the standard is going to be just like the last generation of hardware, which is still great for a lot of sites. Experiment with that, but just know that we don't want you to think that like, okay, it's only $11 and then you like might have to go up to a $28 a month. If you have to pay $28 a month, again, consider that it's still pretty consistent with Squarespace or Show It. Show It gets up to like $39 a month for their advanced blog plan, which is the only one we would recommend anyway. So I think that's all there. And if you, as far as other costs, Cadence Pro, you can get the like Pro blocks and Pro theme. I think it's $129 a year, $140. It's somewhere in that per year. So it's going to add an extra $10 to $12 a month if you want Pro everything, and you want to keep maintaining the updates and support. And then if you want something like WP Rocket, I think what is it at like 60-ish? There's other premium plugins that you can add if you're going to like really go all in. You could spend $400 or $500 a year on your WordPress site pretty easily if you want to. You could also get away with $11 times 12. You could get away with under $150 a year, plus your domain, and you could still probably have a site that's working just fine. That's something I would love to test a little bit more to like, set up some of these, like use this Cadence plus Caldera or something on the $11 plan and just like run performance on it, see if there's any issues. If you have issues, let us know. We would love to get more feedback, like Francine just giving us that feedback about having to upgrade to the 2 gig plan. We've had a few other people who have had to upgrade to the 2 gig plan. I would say for the nerds out there who really know how to manage your server well, you could probably even more easily get away with the lower plans because you kind of know how to manage it yourself. Whereas if you're just like kind of throwing everything at it and letting it kind of build up, and it can get especially if you're adding a lot of plugins that you're not really sure how they affect processor performance and things like that, you might want to go ahead and use the middle plan there. Marcel, does FYP have a list of recommended everythings? Dylan just put together a fresh list of that for Dylan and Jess with the Sitesy. So check that out. I have a list somewhere, but it's probably a little bit more outdated. We'll get a new list. Again, this is sort of a new focus for us, with Dylan and Jess making Sitesy, and with me trying to maintain some support in the membership with the Canvas theme. We're going to make sure that we do have updated resources available for Fuel Your Photos, like for free out there. And the more users that we get on these things, the more that we'll be able to give you first-hand experience, right? Like we have our experience with our sites, but the more that we get like clients and users and members on these things, the more data that we're going to have, and we will definitely keep that up to date over time with all of that information. Yeah. I think Dylan, it's pretty easy to get to on Sitesy. You just go to, isn't there like a start here or something like that?
Guide.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Any other questions? Anything that anybody wants us to look at? Yeah, exactly, Marcel. I've been telling you for how long now? I'm just kidding. Actually, it's funny because you've probably started using Divi back when I think I'd already stopped recommending Divi whenever you started using it. But I know that you were following along as I was using Divi and then Elementor. And I can't say that we'll always recommend Cadence. I think I'm pretty confident that right now, Ben, the main developer at Cadence, has said that they have a roadmap for integrating with full site editing. That makes me feel very good about the future. But they could totally screw it up. Like, I don't know. I could be, maybe Ben gets fired or whatever, and the company that owns Cadence just like really runs it into the ground. It can happen with any software company, right? We don't own the company, and we can't like give you our word that like it's going to always be good. But I think it's good enough for us to put our sites on it for now. I'm really excited about full site editing, and I hope that I have some ideas about building a theme specifically for photographers that's completely open source, that we just host on GitHub and put it out there for other people to make contributions as sort of a base for full site editing. And you would still use cadence blocks with it, and you could still use these cloud libraries with it. But I don't I don't necessarily want to support that. If we made it community supported and open source and there were enough people interested, 100% I would be willing to head it up and put it together. And we've got a few developers out there that in our group that I think would probably be behind it. So maybe that'll be something that we see in the future. But as long as Cadence gets some sort of like full site editing road, like integration at some point, and I'm very confident that they will, then I think I'm very confident saying go with Cadence right now. It is they're the closest thing to like the compromise between something like Divi, Elementor, Show It, where you have like design libraries and you have people developing for it and you have features that you can build all kinds of things with a builder. It's not like the most extensive builder out there. It's done like that on purpose so that it can be responsive and it can be modern and it can work on all devices. And then you're going to have usability and responsiveness kind of out of the box by like using the defaults. That's what I love in a theme, right? I don't like things like Show It and Squarespace, especially since Fluid Engine, where their features they're pushing you towards doing bad things. Like they're making you do bad practices by selling you on features that are going to lead to sites that are not usable. So anyway, I know I'm still ranting. I need to stop. If anybody has questions, drop them in. I think we're going to go ahead and jump off here in just a second. Dylan, any closing thoughts? Anything else you want to say for today?
Gosh, I'm just excited about the future of WordPress and that we're finally supporting it a little bit more in the group. And I've just been really happy with the changes and the Canvas child theme you've made. And yeah, it's been really great.
Sweet. Well, we're going to go ahead and get off here for today. We will try to be back again next week. And again, if you're interested in the membership, I'll throw that up one more time. That is, if you like what we're doing here, imagine that it's interactive where you can jump in and talk with us, and it's 3 days a week. So if you want that, we're going to always be, well, I shouldn't say always. Our plan for the foreseeable future is to always have at least 1 day a week in the membership where you can do that. As long as I'm getting people who are showing up regularly and want the help, I will keep doing 2 or 3 days a week indefinitely. So happy to keep doing that as long as people keep utilizing it. I don't want to just be sitting there if no one's joining, but so far the past few weeks, maybe the past 6 weeks, I guess started a little before the beginning of June. A few people have been showing up regularly, and the changes that they're making are just like every week we get people coming in with updates on like, oh, I did this and look how it's working. And I love it. I love that people are taking these things. We had someone last week who came in to the membership who was new, and they were kind of overwhelmed when they got into the course, and they're like, this is a little bit over my head. And I was like, look, the course is like a bonus almost. Like, come into the community, interact with some of these people. There's so many people who are here who have experience, who are doing this. Like, they're running their businesses and growing things. And we got them into the office hours calls, and they went to rebuilding a whole new website all within a week and like up and running. Like some of the stuff we've talked about here with getting started with Cloudways, getting started with Cadence, getting it installed, any kind of bugs. Imagine that you're going to have some issues, right? There's a learning process. When you pick up a brand new camera that you've never used before, you're gonna have to read through the manual. You're gonna have to like go out and practice with it for a few sessions. If you switched from, like I did, from Canon to Sony, it's a pain. Like in the beginning, my fingers felt like they were gonna fall off. It's like, just not, it was not comfortable. But when you practice and you like Francine's asking right now, should you join or simply hire it out? Join. I really, really think that is the right solution here. Hiring it out, what's going to happen is, for most people that I see when they have someone else set up WordPress for them, is that whenever they run into problems, it starts to deteriorate and they just feel overwhelmed and they hate their site and they want to throw it away and go to Squarespace. Learn the basics of the setup. And whenever you have issues, when you have updates that need to be done, you know that you can easily do them. The things that we need to set up, I promise it won't be over your head, especially if you can come in and just ask a few questions. You'll be able to share your screen with me. I'll be able to show you exactly where to go. I mean, Amanda was like last week we were in there and she was doing custom hooked elements building a footer by herself within 5 minutes of me just like, she shared her screen and I was like able to show her exactly where to go. Like that's a pretty advanced thing. And she was brand new to using Cadence and fairly new to using WordPress. I guess she was using Divi before, but the whole thing is it's not extremely difficult. These are all things that we can kind of support you through. Now is the time to get in while we're really like passionate about WordPress and like really trying to offer a lot of support. I'm very much interested in anyone who joins. I'm going to be like watching out for you and looking at what you're doing and building, and I'll be able to keep, tabs on how things are going. And again, if it's not for you, if you join and you're like, no, I still can't do this, this is just not it, we have a 30-day refund policy. Like if you just think it's not for you, that's totally fine. Let us know. But we really think that it's the right place for people who, if you want to take control of your website, if you want to not be worried about your website anymore, if you don't want to have that anxiety of like, oh, I don't know if my site's doing what it's supposed to be doing, knowing that you have a place to go and ask a community, ask some experts, get some help, I think that really takes a lot of that out of it. So that's what we've designed it for. Great. I'd love to see you there. Like I said, next week I'll be on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for office hours. And you can jump in immediately and start posting in the community. And Dylan and I will be there to answer your questions. And even if you need one-on-one help, we have our calls. I think we're over $300 an hour for our calls, like publicly. But for our members, they're $150 for a 1 hour call. And you'd be surprised at what we could do in an hour. As far as like WordPress goes, you saw how we could set up WordPress in like 90 seconds. If you wanted us to get your site like fully up and running so that all you need to do is change text and photos, I guarantee we could do that in less than an hour. The only tricky part there is like if you're coming from a platform like Squarespace and you want to transfer posts, there are some hiccups that we might run into. But even that, within an hour or two, we can probably get most things either done or to a point where all you need to do is like follow a few simple steps and you'll be able to kind of do the manual work yourself. It might just be a little bit tedious. But even if you're going from one WordPress theme to another, you want to set up something for you in a dev site or a dev URL on Cloudways and like migrate your post with you, doing an hour-long call. We have those available. Like I said, it's $150 for an hour for us to just like do exactly what you one-on-one with you. That's also available. All right, guys. I know I've been talking a lot here. I'm glad that you guys are here. Amanda, thank you so much for talking about the value. I think so too. We lowered the price last year, and I think we increased the value significantly in the past few months. We're gonna have to think about that here going forward. But as long as people keep joining, I think that the price and value, we want to keep it as affordable as possible. We want to help as many people as possible because we've seen so many people who are going to other places where they're getting led astray. And so, it's we don't want to see that. It frustrates us so much when we have people who are telling us how much they wish that they would have done something different from the beginning. And so we want as many people as possible to kind of, we keep telling people it's so easy if you know how to start. So like that, if you know how, is definitely what we're trying to plug in and make it super easy for you now. All right. Well, we're going to sign off for today. I think maybe I can figure out how to end it easier this time. And we will see you guys next time.
Perfect.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.